It was supposed to be just a visit, but what she confessed changed everything. It was one of those languid Saturday afternoons when time seemed to stretch and everything moved at a gentle pace. As I lounged at home, idly scrolling through my phone, my eyes caught a missed call from Lucas. He had forgotten his headphones at my place the previous night after our gathering, and it seemed he was eager to retrieve them. It seemed trivial, I mused. I picked them up from the table and sent him a message to let him know I was on my way to deliver them. Lucas's residence lay not too far away, merely a brief drive through the town. Claire, his mother, was a constant presence, yet she often retreated to her room or maintained a quiet distance from the rest of us. I hadn't given her much thought, aside from acknowledging that she was an attractive woman for her age. She was in her early 40s, yet she appeared hardly older than that. Yet, to me, she remained simply Lucas's mother, nothing beyond that. As I rapped gently on the door, I was taken aback when it swung open to reveal her. She opened the door, still drying her hair with a towel, droplets of water clinging to her damp hair. Her expression was one of surprise, yet she bore no trace of embarrassment. I found myself at a loss, unsure of where to direct my gaze. My gaze swiftly averted from her, yet the palpable awkwardness lingered in the atmosphere. "Hey, Ethan," she said, a smile gracing her lips. "Lucas is away for a bit. What has drawn you to this place?" I hesitated momentarily, my words caught in my throat, before raising the headphones aloft. "I have simply arrived to leave these here. I hadn't anticipated that you would be occupied." Claire chuckled gently, tucking a damp lock of hair behind her ear. "Oh, I have plenty of time. I have just emerged from the shower. Would you like to step inside for a while?" With a moment of doubt lingering in my mind, I crossed the threshold regardless. It wasn't as though she was unfamiliar. Rather, it simply felt different. I had always perceived her as a composed, nurturing presence, never as someone who could evoke an unexpected sense of attraction within me. As we settled into the cozy confines of the living room, she graciously extended an invitation for a drink. The dialogue began with a light-hearted tone, yet as our exchange deepened, I found her revealing thoughts and feelings that took me by surprise. We engaged in a conversation about life, exploring her feelings regarding the changes unfolding around her, and delving into her experiences of isolation, despite being amidst a crowd. For a fleeting instant, it seemed as though our conversation had drifted far from the notion of her being Lucas's mother entirely. It was merely the two of us, engaged in a genuine exchange of thoughts. It was evident that she was truly engaged in my words, and in that instant, I began to perceive her from a new perspective. She was more than merely the woman who nurtured Lucas. She smiled once more, a gentle, nearly enigmatic smile. "Ethan, you have truly blossomed over the years. Seems almost unbelievable. I can still recall those days when you were just a small child darting about with Lucas." Unsure of how to reply, I simply nodded in acknowledgement. An unspoken tension lingered in the atmosphere surrounding us. A presence felt, yet left unsaid. A palpable connection lingered in the air, charged with a delicate tension. Yet, I found myself uncertain of its significance. What I felt was a strong reluctance to depart just yet. She rose from her seat and made her way to the kitchen, and I trailed behind her. As she glided past, a delicate trace of her perfume lingered in the air, intertwined with the crisp, refreshing aroma of her recent shower. For a fleeting instant, she seemed to transcend the role of merely being Lucas's mother. She was a woman, an individual with her own thoughts, her own desires. "I appreciate you stopping by," she remarked, glancing in my direction. I found myself in need of a listening ear. A smile crept across my face, a gentle warmth unfurling within me. As I departed, an unsettling sensation lingered, as if the very fabric of reality had subtly altered. A shift had occurred, leaving me uncertain of its destination. When I next encountered Claire, it was entirely unanticipated. As I navigated the grocery store, gathering a handful of items for dinner, I unexpectedly encountered her in the aisle. Her gaze was fixed upon a jar of marinara sauce, her brow knitted in deep thought, and for a fleeting instant, I questioned why I had never observed before the way her beauty seemed to flow so effortlessly. It transcended mere appearances. There was an air about her, a certain confidence that suggested she possessed knowledge beyond what the rest of us could grasp. Her presence caught me off guard, leaving me uncertain about how to respond. Since that uncomfortable morning when I delivered the headphones, our conversations had been sparse, yet the echoes of that exchange continued to resonate within me. There was something in the way she gazed at me, or perhaps in the curve of her smile. A change lingered in the air. Yet, in that moment, I merely dismissed it as a mere coincidence. "Ethan," she called, her gaze landing on me. Her voice possessed a warm, effortless charm, the sort that enveloped you in immediate comfort. I forced a smile, attempting to maintain an air of normalcy. "Hello, Claire. I didn't anticipate encountering you in this place." "Indeed," she remarked, indicating her cart, as she collected a few items for dinner. "Do you require anything?" A seemingly straightforward question unfolded into a dialogue that stretched on far beyond my initial expectations. We engaged in conversations about food, the weather, and the usual trivialities, yet an unshakable tension lingered between us, a silent current beneath the surface. It was understated, a fleeting look in one direction, a gentle curve of the lips in another. Yet it existed. "Do you have any plans for this evening?" she inquired abruptly, as though she were putting me to the test. Uncertainty clouded my response. "Not quite, simply spending time at home. It appears that Lucas is spending the evening with a few companions." I found myself contemplating the creation of dinner. "It would be wonderful if you could stop by. Having someone to converse with would be quite pleasant." The invitation took me by surprise. Initially, I felt compelled to refuse. In the end, what truly connected me to her beyond Lucas? Yet, there was an undeniable quality in her voice that rendered refusal nearly impossible. "Of course," I replied, hardly allowing myself a moment to think it over. Uncertainty loomed over me as I stepped into the unknown. As I trailed behind her on the way home that evening, the mere idea of being alone with Claire sent my heart racing in a manner I couldn't fully comprehend. Upon my arrival, I was welcomed by the comforting embrace of her home. The aroma of freshly prepared dishes wafted through the air, enveloping everything in a sense of warmth and comfort. Excessively at ease. In the kitchen, Claire moved gracefully, a soft melody escaping her lips as she busied herself with the evening meal. I lingered in the doorway, captivated by the sight of her. It was challenging to align the woman standing before me with the mother I had known as Lucas's. She possessed an unmistakable change within her now, something genuine. "Have a seat," she beckoned, glancing back with a hint of invitation. The dinner hour approaches, the meal nearly complete. I position myself at the kitchen table, making a conscious effort to conceal the unease bubbling within me. She appeared effortlessly relaxed, yet an unsettling sense of change lingered in the air between us. It was not merely her movements or the curve of her smile that captivated, it was the way she stirred emotions within me, beyond the role of a mere friend's mother. We dined, and the dialogue unfolded effortlessly. We engaged in a conversation about existence, reflecting on the complexities that often lie beneath the surface of appearances. She shared with me her longing for the thrill of her youth. Life with Lucas had settled into a familiar rhythm. Her voice carried an unexpected honesty that caught me off guard. She had grown weary of the facade that everything was fine. I absorbed the words, nodding slowly, uncertain of how to reply. Yet, as she spoke, I found myself captivated by her undeniable allure. Her eyes sparkled with an intensity that revealed her fervor for the things she loved. She was more than merely Lucas's mother. She was a woman of her own convictions, navigating her own existence. For the first time, I was perceiving her in that light. "I appreciate this," I remarked after dinner, rising to tidy the table. Claire offered me a smile, and in that fleeting moment, I caught a glimmer of something in her gaze. "It brings me joy that you decided to visit. It has been some time since I engaged in a genuine dialogue with another person." At a loss for words, I simply nodded in response. An unvoiced comprehension lingered between us at this moment, something that required no words at all. As I departed, she gave me a warm farewell, more tender than usual, her hand resting on my back for a heartbeat longer than required. It had an easygoing, warm vibe, yet there was an unmistakable quality that set it apart. "Take care, Ethan," she murmured softly. I made my way back to the car, my mind swirling with thoughts. The mere experience of being in her presence stirred a sense of unease within me, yet I found myself inexplicably captivated by her allure. The coming days unfolded with an air of peculiarity. The memories of that night at Claire's house lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. It felt effortlessly laid back, almost too straightforward, and yet there was an element that unsettled me. Though her actions were not explicitly improper, the intensity of her gaze and the attentiveness in her listening created an impression of a deeper connection between us. I had visited Lucas's house numerous times in the past, yet this occasion felt distinct, and I loathed myself for dwelling on it so intensely. I made an effort to cast it aside from my thoughts. A few days later, Lucas reached out to me, inquiring if I was interested in going out for some drinks. I consented, believing it would serve as a welcome distraction from my thoughts. Upon my arrival at the bar, my gaze fell upon Claire, perched at the counter amidst her circle of friends. As she raised her hand in a friendly gesture, I found myself instinctively responding with a wave of my own. Her smile flowed with the Ethane ease as always, yet it carried an added warmth that stirred a sense of unease within me. "Greetings, Ethan." As I approached, she offered me a warm greeting. "I was surprised to find you here this evening." I feigned nonchalance, attempting to appear unfazed. "I'm simply here to spend some time with Lucas. I had no idea you were on your way." Indeed, I was considering reconnecting with some familiar faces from the past. "It had been some time since I enjoyed a night out," she responded, her gaze resting on me just a moment longer than required. The tension was impossible to overlook. There existed a subtle undercurrent between us, persistently present yet never entirely recognized. I ought to have been more discerning. I ought to have taken my leave and departed, yet I remained. Instead, I found myself perched at the bar, engaging in conversation with her, chuckling at her jokes, and feigning that everything was perfectly normal. Lucas finally made his way over, and soon we were all engaged in conversation about a variety of topics: work, college, and the nostalgic memories of our younger days. The dialogue flowed easily, yet I sensed my focus waning. With each laugh that escaped Claire's lips and every fleeting glance she cast my way, an undeniable connection seemed to shimmer in the air between us. It felt like a hidden truth, one that neither of us dared to articulate. At one moment, Lucas excused himself to fetch a drink, leaving me in solitude with her. I hadn't intended to, but I found myself asking, "So, how have you truly been, Claire?" She hesitated, her smile wavering for a brief moment before she replied, "I'm fine, just feeling a bit lonely, I suppose." The revelation took me by surprise. In that fleeting instant, she appeared exposed, revealing a facet of herself that had remained hidden from my view until now. It felt as if I were conversing with an entirely different person, someone beyond the role of merely being Lucas's mother. "I understand," I responded. "Times it can be quite challenging." She nodded, and a fleeting silence enveloped us both. It was not without its ease, however. I felt a deep urge to offer her more solace, yet the right words eluded me. I simply observed her, attempting to discern the sincerity behind her words. Was she truly alone? Or was this merely her method of seeking something deeper? Lucas came back with another round of drinks, and the moment slipped away, yet I couldn't dismiss the sense that something had just changed between Claire and me. She no longer appeared to be merely the mother of a friend. Uncertainty enveloped me, yet there was a distinct sensation that I was perceiving her from a new perspective. A perilous glow. Eventually, we all came to the conclusion that it was time to depart. As I stepped out of the bar alongside Lucas, my mind lingered on that fleeting exchange we had. What did she mean by lonely? Was she merely expressing her boredom? Or was there an underlying implication of something deeper? I couldn't deny that a fragment of my curiosity was piqued. Upon arriving home, I sank into my couch, the events of the night swirling in my mind like a relentless tide. It was at that moment I understood. This was far from a mere casual gathering. A profound undercurrent was at play. An unknown force beckoned to me, its grip tightening with each passing moment, and I found myself questioning whether I possessed the strength to withstand its allure. Yet perhaps I was not inclined to fight against it. The days that followed bore an unusual weight. The memories of that night at the bar lingered in my mind, playing on a loop. Claire's hushed admission of solitude. Her gaze held on mine just a moment too long. With each exchange, the atmosphere transformed around us. Everything was beginning to take on an unsettling authenticity. I attempted to convince myself that it was insignificant. Please hold on for a moment. Yet, beneath the surface, I understood it was not the case. Lucas and I had always shared a deep bond. He was my closest companion. Yet, in recent moments spent together, my thoughts would inevitably drift back to Claire. Her smile lingers in my thoughts. There was a subtle grace in the way she moved, a confidence I hadn't noticed before. Unto themselves, she appeared so unlike anything I had ever known. With each fleeting thought of her, a quiet guilt stirred in me. Unsettling and unrelenting crept in, gnawing at my conscience. On that Saturday afternoon, I resolved to clear my mind. I reached out to Lucas and proposed we head to the park for a game of basketball, reminiscent of our past adventures. I thought it could provide a distraction for a bit. Upon my arrival at the court, I found Lucas immersed in his own world, shooting hoops alone. His gaze lifted as he caught sight of me. "Hey there, you're running behind schedule. I apologize. I had to attend to a matter," I uttered, mustering a smile as I took the ball from his hands. For the next hour we dashed about, exchanging quips and striving to one-up each other with our shots. Yet I found myself absent in that moment. My thoughts wandered, lost in the reverie of Claire. It was during our break, perched on the sidelines of the court, that Lucas mentioned her. "Do you believe my mom is managing well?" he inquired, brushing the perspiration from his brow. I was taken aback by the question. "Could you clarify what you mean? It seems she's been somewhat aloof in recent times, wouldn't you agree? I'm not sure if it's stress or something else, but she seems different lately. It seems to me that she has been navigating some challenges." My gaze fell upon him, a wave of astonishment washing over me. Claire had always appeared remarkably resilient, exuding an air of calm assurance. Never did I anticipate that she would be facing such difficulties. I was unaware. Had he discussed it with her? Lucas gave a slight shrug. "Not quite. She continues to dismiss me. I hesitate to press her. Yet I'm acutely aware that she isn't okay." I found myself at a loss for words. Part of me longed to reveal it all, to confess that I had experienced those ethane feelings, a sensation I ought not to have experienced. Yet, conversely, I found myself unable to utter the words. Not at this moment. Moreover, I was completely unaware of what it was. "Perhaps she simply requires a bit of distance," I remarked, attempting to maintain a cheerful atmosphere. "Perhaps." Lucas spoke, yet his voice carried a weighty gravity. He appeared unconvinced. After concluding the game, we made our way back to Lucas's residence. As I stepped through the threshold, an all too familiar tension began to coil in the pit of my eslicasac. Claire lounged on the couch, idly flipping through the pages of a magazine. Her gaze lifted as we stepped inside, a smile gracing her lips as though all was well. "Greetings, everyone." She welcomed us, her voice enveloping us in warmth as always. Yet I could perceive the weariness in her gaze, the manner in which she carried herself. It was as if she were putting on an act. "Hello, Mom," Lucas remarked as he settled beside her. "Are you doing okay?" Claire paused for a moment, then gave a slight nod. Indeed, it has been quite an extended week. It was evident she was dismissing it, yet I chose to remain silent. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts, leaving me at a loss for words. My heart thudded in my chest, a rhythm more pronounced than I was willing to acknowledge. As I ventured into the kitchen, I sought a drink, allowing myself a brief pause to catch my breath. The atmosphere was thick with tension, and I yearned for a fleeting moment of reprieve. Just as I was on the verge of pouring myself a glass of water, Claire suddenly appeared in the doorway. She stood there, arms crossed, a picture of defiance. "Ethanol," she spoke in a hushed tone, her voice gentle yet resolute. "May I have a moment of your time?" As I pivoted, a wave of astonishment washed over me. "Of course. Hello there." As she entered the kitchen, she gently closed the door behind her. The unexpected intimacy that enveloped us struck like a bolt of lightning. The warmth surged within me as she approached, each step igniting a fire in my chest. I wanted to express my gratitude for your presence the other night, she spoke, her gaze lingering just shy of my own. It truly held significant value for me. I gulped, the gravity of her words settling heavily upon me. Certainly. I'm always available if you feel like sharing your thoughts. She nodded, and for a fleeting moment, silence enveloped us both. An unspoken tension lingered in the atmosphere. An unspoken truth that lingered between us, both too proud to confront it. Then with an air of nonchalance she remarked, "You know, Lucas is a good kid. He has endured much, yet his heart remains kind." I nodded once more, feeling uncertain about the direction this conversation was taking. Yet, as she remained in that moment, her gaze holding onto mine, I sensed that unmistakable spark once more, the one that set my heart pounding. Everything seemed to hang precariously, as if on the brink of something perilous. "Indeed he truly does," I responded, my voice softer than I intended. She offered a subtle smile. Yet, beneath the surface of her expression, there lingered an unspoken depth. A thought crossed my mind, leaving me to ponder whether she shared the ethane sentiment as I did. In that fleeting instant, I found myself on the brink of posing the question to her. I inquired about the true nature of the situation, yet I refrained. Instead, I remained motionless, the silence enveloping us like a heavy fog. Neither of us knew the way forward. At last, she shattered the stillness, uttering, "Thanks once more, Ethan." "Anytime," I remarked, though my intention had shifted subtly since then. A week had passed since that fateful night in the kitchen with Claire. The dialogue we shared was rather unremarkable. Yet, it etched an indelible mark upon my memory. Each time I encountered her, an unmistakable tension simmered just below the surface, poised to erupt. It was unclear whether she recognized it, or if I was merely imposing my emotions onto her. The atmosphere surrounding us had undeniably changed. Despite my best efforts to push it aside, it remained impossible to overlook. As per our routine, Lucas and I spent time together. He was just as he always was, engaging in laughter and playful banter, seeking to distract myself from the troubles that weighed on my mind. Yet it seemed futile. I found myself stealing glances at Claire each time she entered the room, captivated by the subtle details that surrounded her. The manner in which she inclined her head as she conversed, her gaze lingered on mine. A moment stretched just a fraction too long as our paths intertwined. It lingered in the air, understated yet undeniably present. On a Saturday afternoon, the course of events took an unexpected turn. Lucas had ventured out with friends, leaving me solitary in their home. To my surprise, solitude was my only companion, yet I found no discontent in it. Space was what I required. I required some moments to unravel the complexities of what was unfolding between Claire and me. As I lounged on the couch, my fingers danced over the screen of my phone, when suddenly, her voice drifted in from the hallway. "Ethan," I glanced up, taken aback to find her there, her face a mask of inscrutability. "Hey," I said, attempting to keep my tone light, even as my heart raced beneath the surface. She entered the room, pausing briefly before uttering a word. "May we engage in conversation?" My Eslicasac nodded with tension. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. "Absolutely, without a doubt." Claire settled beside me on the couch. The space that separated us was slight. The room seemed to shrink around me. Once more, the familiar sensation of tension enveloped me. "I've been reflecting on our recent discussions," she started, her voice soft and tinged with uncertainty. "And I believe I owe you an apology. I realize I have been somewhat removed. I have been grappling with certain challenges, and I hesitated to impose my troubles on anyone else." My gaze fell upon her, a true sense of astonishment washing over me. I was taken aback by her willingness to share so openly, particularly in light of all that had transpired. "It's fine," I remarked, even as uncertainty lingered in my mind about the true meaning behind my words. "I comprehend. No need for an apology." Her smile was subtle, yet a deeper emotion lingered in her gaze, an unvoiced sentiment waiting to be revealed. Her expression suggested a lingering doubt about my reply. I value your understanding, yet I sense that I may have been testing certain limits in our interactions, and I wish to express my honesty regarding this matter. My heart raced with an unexpected thrill. This was the moment. The dialogue I had both feared and, in an odd twist of fate, yearned for. Uncertain of the destination, yet irresistibly drawn in, I found myself unable to turn away from the unfolding narrative. Could you clarify what you mean? I inquired, my voice softened, tinged with caution. Claire inhaled deeply, her fingers nervously playing with the edge of her shirt. I believe you understand my point. A connection has woven itself between us, and I can no longer feign ignorance of its existence. I stood still, paralyzed by the moment. Her words struck me with the force of a blow to the abdomen. I had been aware of it, naturally. Yet, when she spoke, it transformed the entire situation into something more tangible, more intricate. I wished to avoid any awkwardness, Ethan, she continued, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm at a loss for how to navigate this situation. Yet, I refused to feign its absence any longer. My gaze locked onto her, thoughts swirling in a tempest within me. The truth loomed large, a relentless force within me, urging that I did not belong here, that this conversation was a mistake I should not be having. Yet there I was, and there was no way to undo it. I aimed to maintain a sense of composure, hoping to prevent any awkwardness from creeping in and steering the situation off course. However, I'm uncertain about what you expect me to express. Claire's eyes locked onto mine, a fierce intensity radiating from her stare. For an extended pause, silence enveloped us both. The quiet stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words and emotions we dared not voice. At last, her hand brushed against mine. A fleeting moment, but it lingered, grazing against mine. Though it was a modest act, it ignited a flicker of something profound. There exists a silence, yet its presence is unmistakable. My breath hitched in my throat, and for a fleeting moment, I found myself frozen in place. This is far more than a mere infatuation, Ethan, she murmured, her gaze locked onto mine. There's something elusive at play, and I can no longer turn a blind eye to it. I have no desire to do so. A surge of contradictory feelings washed over me. Part of me was acutely aware that this was not right. I was acutely aware that the revelation would shatter everything I held dear. Yet there was an undeniable connection I felt with her, and a part of me wished for it to continue. I gazed at her, my voice trembling. Do you truly believe this is the right course of action? This, whatever this may be. She nodded, her grip on my hand growing firmer. Indeed, I am certain. In an instant, we both sensed the emotional weight of that moment both been delicately navigating was suddenly yet chose to remain silent. Our words fell silent after that moment. Silence enveloped the moment, leaving no words to be spoken. The moment had slipped away, yet its heaviness remained palpable. We were acutely aware of the direction this was taking, and we fully grasped the dangers involved. Yet, in this moment, we could only embrace the stillness, fully aware that our existence had irrevocably changed. A year had passed since it all began. Over the months, our connection deepened behind closed doors, unspoken but felt, skillfully maneuvering through the delicate equilibrium of our daily routines and the subtle bond that united us. In many respects, it seemed to stretch on for an eternity, a tapestry woven from countless small moments that belonged solely to us. It was a subject we seldom broached. The us that began with that singular night, when Claire stood at the door wrapped in a towel, remained unchanged, yet our approach to it had evolved. It was, in one sense, the most instinctive occurrence imaginable, yet in another it was a peculiar, fragile entity that required our safeguarding. Yet, from the very beginning, we had come to a mutual understanding that our happiness was paramount, and that happiness was founded on trust. It was a bond that enabled us to maintain our secrecy, to confide in one another without the awareness of the outside world. In a sense, it was our own private universe. Whenever I laid eyes on Lucas, a sharp twinge of guilt washed over me. It wasn't that I desired to share it with him, nor did I believe it was the right thing to do, yet the burden of the secret continued to bear heavily upon me. Uncertainty lingered in my mind, Yet one truth stood resolute. This was a choice we both made. Despite the complexities, it resonated with a sense of correctness. Claire and I met whenever we could, yet we kept our encounters limited. We never ventured beyond the limits. In our moments together, there was an unspoken understanding of secrecy, a sanctuary far removed from the gaze of the world. The most challenging aspect was the act of feigning normalcy during Lucas's visits to see his mother, suppressing any hint of affection, and refraining from those subtle gestures that couples often share, all while striving to remain inconspicuous. We exercised caution, and I came to cherish those fleeting moments above all else. Those furtive glances, the subtle smiles exchanged, the fleeting brush of fingers when solitude enveloped them. Those were the moments that held everything together. In the stillness of our home, we would often ponder the consequences of secrets being revealed. We were left with no concrete answers, merely hazy notions of how we could respond should the truth come to light. Yet, for the majority, we chose not to linger on it. We existed in the now, in those precious instances when we could simply embrace our true selves, free from the scrutiny or doubts of others. On a Saturday evening, a year after it all began, I found myself once more at Claire's house, perched on the couch much like that initial conversation we had shared. The house lay in a serene stillness. Lucas had ventured out with his friends, leaving us to enjoy the solitude of the space. It felt familiar, cozy, just as we had come to know our life together. Our conversations about feelings had become less frequent. The relationship had found its cadence, and despite its unconventional beginnings, it had grown into something I was reluctant to let slip away. Claire sat beside me, radiating her usual beauty and grace, yet there was a gentle warmth about her that suggested a newfound ease. Time had passed, and we had both come to understand how to navigate the intricacies of our circumstances. We had embraced the secret, reached an understanding with it, and discovered a way to navigate its complexities. Have you ever pondered the journey that led us to this moment? Claire inquired softly, her tone delicate, shattering the stillness that enveloped them. With a gentle smile, I reclined into the embrace of the couch. Constantly. Truly, it astonishes me that we have managed to maintain this for such an extended period. It hardly seems possible that a year has passed. She chuckled gently, her head nestled against my shoulder. It certainly does not, does it? Yet, concurrently, it seems as though we've existed in this moment forever, as if it was destined to unfold. I inclined my head, my fingers lightly grazing hers. Indeed, it's peculiar, yet in the most delightful manner. Never did I imagine finding myself in such a predicament, yet here we stand, and I wouldn't alter a single detail. She turned her head, locking her gaze with mine, that familiar look that rendered everything a touch more tangible. I feel the ethane way. It seems to me that we've navigated this situation with a commendable grace. I'm relieved that we kept it to ourselves. It has belonged to us. Merely ours. Indeed, it was true. To belong to us. That held greater significance than anything else. I'm happy, I murmured softly, gently squeezing her hand. We are filled with joy. Nothing else holds significance. Throughout the remainder of the evening we remained seated, enveloped in a tranquil silence, the only sound being the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall. A year slipped by, and we had skillfully maneuvered through it, cloaked in secrecy. We had preserved our secret, nurtured our bond, and above all, safeguarded our joy. As the night drew to a close, I came to the profound realization that this was precisely how I wished for things to remain. It may not have been flawless, nor was it simple, yet it belonged to us, and at times that was sufficient.